2022, the FIA announced that cars would now be rolling on 18-inch wheels, far larger than 13-inch wheels used prior. These larger tyres were designed to reduce overheating, improve grip and provide more aggressive racing. We might be used to blisteringly fast pit stops, some even approaching the sub-2-second mark, but what about the longest? Well, that would go to Valtteri Bottas, who had to retire after a seized wheel nut forced him to retire in the 2021 Monaco GP. The seized nut was removed 43 hours later, which officially makes it longest pit stop turnaround in history. Max Verstappen managed to finish 81% of his races on the podium in 2021. Still though, Michael Schumacher holds the record for highest percentage, when in 2002, Schumacher finished...
Well, good evening ladies and gentlemen. Not the usual commentators you thought we have tonight, but we had a bit of a change around due to one of our co-commentators being ill and the other one as well. So hopefully they'll be back soon for you. I know Freefall and Leslie are your main commentators, but unfortunately they couldn't make it tonight. So hopefully they'll be back. I know Freefall will take a little bit of a long break due to his illness. So get well soon, Freefall. A great commentator indeed. So we're here for round number 8 at the Brazilian Grand Prix here in Interlagos to hopefully be a thrilling race as it always has been in the past as well. And alongside me this evening is Bunnies.
Hi, great to be here. First time here for me. Looking forward to the race. A lot of very talented drivers on this grid. So expect to see lots of good pace and hopefully alongside it some fantastic battling.
Indeed, mate. We've got Mr. Hollywood coming through the CRS now, headed through turn 1, turn 2 and turn number 3, just hugging the inside line there into turn 3 as we head down the Rotta Postra straight as we head now into turn number 4. 17.1 in the first sector, braking about after the 100-meter board, attacking here, late braking, getting the curb as well and using all the track as we head into Ferradura, into turn 6 and turn 7. A slight dab on the brakes there, but it should be almost flat out in the next uphill part. Now we're heading in to the slow speed corners, hugging that inside curve there. Try not to run out too wide. You can be very, very patient as you tap the throttle then as he gets it out nicely in there. It was a bit too much of a tight line to turn 1, but hopefully he gets away with it, Mr. Hollywood. It is his first flying lap indeed, so he'll pick it up. He'll get more confident as the laps go on. A 51.8 in the middle sector there for Hollywood as he now makes his way at the famous John Sao as it was back in 2008, and we all know what happened on that day indeed, as we see the DRS enabled for the Aston Martin driver as the TGT man makes his way towards the line now. It's going to be an 8.8 as the benchmark, so let's see if anybody can improve or beat that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. A 108.8 is a very good lap time, but you know, it's very rare that the first lap time stands as the best lap time. So I would expect, as we already see, Anru beating that lap time, and same with the CPI driver. I am still learning all of these names, admittedly, but that's yeah, a lot of new lap times coming in and already beating that first lap time.
Yeah, Philip goes quickest for IRT. McKillany in P2, just if in case you're wondering how to pronounce his name. And CPI Luke has invalidated somewhere on his lap time, but it looks like he's still pushing despite invalidating, just to trying to get a preference and see what lap time he can actually set. The best thing around this track, it is quite short, so you can have multiple runs around here, unlike Belgium with the long distance tracks and Singapore like that. So he makes his way towards the line. What could it have been? A 7.6. That would have been pole, but did the invalidation just gain him a bit more time? But still a great lap time nevertheless, so he knows he can get to the top of the timing sheets on his next runs then. So CPI looking really good so far, except Luke, but hopefully he can hook up a lap on his next runs. We've got ILT Julian as Oni goes into P5 there in the McLaren LDL, and his teammate PLX is making his way now. In fact, he won't be because he validated. Same with ILT Julian. The GT10 drivers are out there in the first sector, and both Alpine drivers currently on a flying lap. I see a Mercedes teleporter, by the way. It's Riley McKay goes quickest with a 7.7 in the AlphaTauri. So what a great lap time that was, and 600s quicker than his rival in P2 of Phillips, representing ILT as they're in a big battle. So Julian there, crucially, needs to be up there too, alongside his teammates. So currently, AlphaTauri 1, ILT P2, and the Red Bull of CPI P3. Quartz making his way towards the line now as he puts the Aston Martin into P8, and that's the Alpine, sorry, I was just looking at the wrong car there. So there's your lap times done and dusted there for the first part. We just await the next drivers. Lorenzo coming out of John Sauer then, as the Haas makes his way now out of the slow speed corner, fully flat to the floor as we approach the line now. What lap time can it be for the Haas man? He goes into, where was that? P8, I believe it was.
Yeah, so lots of lap times being set, 12 drivers with laps set. Still a few left to set laps. LDL PLX, for example, coming up to the end of Sector 3 with the DRS open, overtake on, and sets the lap, goes P7. So that's the two LDL drivers, 7-8 in the McLaren. So that's pretty good for them. But it has to be said, certainly the top combined team at the moment would be the the Alfa Romeos, VIR it seems they are. Would that be right?
Yeah, both Alfa Romeos. We're still getting used to this because I've never commented in F2 before, so apologies if we do make mistakes on the lines, but WOR is Anru and Snipes then, so both WOR drivers in P4 and P6. The AlphaTauri of Riley McKay is representing TF10 alongside his teammate Marcus Costa, and I think somebody else has just joined the session as well, so let's hope they can get lots on the board. It's Bakke in P16, so he's replacing, it looks like to be Marcus Costa for TF10, but TF10 currently on pole position then, which is a much needed boost for them, and currently ahead of the IRT driver who are fighting CPI in the championship as well. And while we talk about the championship, let me get their standings up for you immediately. I don't have OBS, so I'll have to do it the good old fashioned way and just read it off the screen. Just want to keep an eye on both Ferraris, see what they do. They're currently on a flying lap, Ajivoon and Skeplap in P17, so keep an eye on them. But CPI currently leading the championship ahead of ILT, and Riley McKay goes quickest with a 7.6 then. That says Scuderia Ferrari. The AlphaTauri, sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. I'm reading Scuderia, then I'm on board with the Ferraris. That's why I got it mixed up, so hopefully don't do that again. I don't have my glasses on, so my eyesight is quite terrible, and my glasses are upstairs, so I can't be bothered to get them. But on board with the Ferrari driver of Jeroen, going towards the end of the middle sector with a 51.7. Not the best middle sector I've seen so far, so definitely needs some improvements. But let's get on with the championship results. CPI P1. 130 points ahead of IRT. So actually, I think IRT have to watch out for WOR because they're only 17 points behind is WOR Esports. So Riley McKay being in P1, that's a huge boost and much needed points as well in qualifying at this early stage of the qualifying session. But actually, he's done 3 laps on a set of soft compound tyres, so looks like he's doing a push, cool down. So going for that longer runs on that set of soft compound tyre. LDL in P4 in the championship ahead of TGT and LRN Esports in P6, Legacy Pit Lane in P7, RVL in P8, and GT10 and TF10 unfortunately at the back of the field then, so they need some desperate points on their tally. But qualifying then in this midway through the stages of this part, Philip has spun coming through John Sao, and I believe he was purple in the middle sector then, just a bit went in a bit too hot there unfortunately, and the rear end overtook the front end, but actually he's beached, so he needs to reset to track, which he does do. So I don't think that's a penalty, because you do get penalties for reset to the track, but I think that's an excuse for him to do that one.
Yeah, and you mentioned that TF10 are at the back of the championship standings, I believe, but it's certainly looking promising for them, given they are on provisional pole with Riley McKay. Although, of course, their other driver, Bakke, is on an outlap. It is an invalidated outlap. Hopefully that's not carrying over into their flying lap. It doesn't appear to be, so starting their flying lap now. Bakke is, through turn 1 and 2, as that is a new provisional pole time, a 107.642 from how do you pronounce that again?
McIlhenny.
Thank you. So McIlhenny on provisional pole for the time being for Red Bull, for CPI. We'll see if he holds on to that. Mind you, he's only got it by 16 thousandths of a second, so he doesn't have it by much, but we'll see if that holds. Very close grid here so far from the looks of it.
And also, he got a lovely tow from his Red Bull teammate, Luke, the Dutchman, in P18 there. So Luke is about to start his flying lap, and hopefully he can get lap time on the board. He did a 7.6 on his first run, which was invalidated too. So Baki coming towards John Sao now. Can he match his teammate there? As somebody has just boosted up the order. That was GT10 Quartz, who's just crossed the line there with a 7.8. And Oni in for LDL goes P4 as well. So some good lap times being set. What can the AlphaTauri of Baki do? He stayed always P13, so not the lap time he was looking for, and quite a margin off his teammate. But it's a Red Bull 1-2 and CPI 1-2 with Luke up into P1. So CPI throughout the whole season have been looking really strong, and once again they're proving it here tonight with both Red Bulls in P1 and P2. They're shaping up with 2 races left to go in the season to win the championship. So CPI, their manager, will be very happy about this as well. Qualifying's great, the teamwork has been amazing, the pace for the whole season, even though I've only been here for one race, which is today, has been great. I know CPI in different esports categories or different esports events have been looking really strong with all the drivers in their roster, so CPI would definitely be happy with that one indeed. And can anybody else beat them? We got an AlphaTauri there in P3 who haven't really been there most of the season, but Brazil could it be their one good strong track? We'll see. Riley McKay, it's actually making his way through the centre S's, so let's keep an eye on him in the AlphaTauri and let's see what he does in his first sector. He did 3 laps on a set of soft compound tyres in his first one. 700s up in that middle sector is Riley McKay as he negotiates out the corner really well, then using all the track he got available to him without invalidating or lose the back end. Coming to Ferradura, a fast flowing part of the track, fully committed there, carrying the speed, using all the track on the exit. We've seen plenty of people invalidate in the past, but this twisty middle sector where the tyres be at their best and very hot at this stage. Be very careful when you pick up the throttle as well. You can't get too greedy on the throttle application. Now coming through this downhill left-hander and flat out, of course, in qualifying. 2 tenths up is Riley McKay. This could be on course for pole position, and the driver ahead of him is not his teammate, so he might get a distant tow. And let's see if this is pole. Without a tow for Riley McKay, will he be at the top of the timing sheets in about a few moments' time? No, yes he will. It's a 7.3. And Riley McKay takes pole position. I really need to wear my glasses, by the way, because I wear them all the time. But yeah, my eyesight's proven to be a bad one again, so apologies if I do make mistakes here and then.
Yeah, so a very, very good lap there. I was watching, and yeah, going into the last sector, 2 tenths up on his lap time. Riley McKay, I'm sure, will be very happy with that lap time. The TF10 driver is doing a very good job in that sense, putting it on provisional pole. Both CPI drivers right behind, but not ahead vitally. Certainly, we can see, for example, Mr. Hollywood down in 17th at the moment in his Aston Martin, coming up through turns 6 and 7 here, running a bit wide, so it's evident that some drivers dealing with some understeer here today. Understeer, oversteer, usually you have one of the two. It seems at least Mr. Hollywood has understeer as he almost misses the apex of turn 10 as well. So the Aston Martin driver really struggling to get the turn-ins at the moment, but pretty solid through jumps out, turn 12. Blasting down the main straight now. We'll see where this lap puts him. Will he gain any positions with this lap? He does. He gains 1 position on his TGT teammate, Young Tug, so only up to 16th for Mr. Hollywood.
And a few moments before that, Philip crossed the line. He did improve his lap time, but not his track position, so he stays in P4. But however, his teammate of ILT, Julian, is currently on a flying lap, and let's see what he can do in this middle sector. We know Julian's got pace. We've both seen him in the past, and we know what he can do. He's coming through John Sound now. He's a few hundreds up, well, a few tenths up, I must say, in that middle sector. I didn't quite see what it was because the viewer count for the live stream popped up, so I can't quite see what it was. But he's in the pit lane anyway, so it feels that lap time wasn't great enough for him. And with 3 minutes and 15 seconds left to go on the clock, will get one more lap on the board as well, as Philip is in the pit lane. So majority of drivers in the pit lane. Now it's just the calm before the storm, before every single driver attempts to go for their last flying laps. By the way, point out that LDL are doing a great job in P5 and P8 as well. They're currently in P4 in the championship, trying to fight WR Esports. There's only 2 races left to go. P5 and P8 are good positions to be in, so let's see if they can up their positions. But CPI looking good, but Riley McKay for TF10 has done an outstanding job, and considering they're at the back of the field in the championship in P10, let's see how many points they can gain tonight, because I think P8 might be doable in the championship if they can keep this pace up, but the other driver, Baki, needs to improve as well, so let's see if we can do that. But now we've got drivers coming out the circuits attempting their potentially last flying laps, so let's see then which driver will improve on the lap time. GT10 Quartz is the man to start his last flying lap, so let's see what he does then. As he takes he's actually going for another cooldown lap, or a push lap, sorry, as Quartz, so going for a double lap.
That's interesting. That's not something I expected to see. That said, it seems like McKerney will be the first to start a flying lap. Hard braking into turn 1, throw the car and try to open up the exit for turn 2. It was an alright exit through turn 2, flat through turn 3, down into another DRS zone. There's cars coming out of the pit lane here. Stay out of the way nicely. Through into turn 4, just over half a tenth up on his lap time. Very nice exit through turn 5, apexing every corner so far. As far to the left as he can go, and a hard turn in for turns 6 and 7. Frustrating uphill right-hander there, but he manages it well. Through 8, now 9. Keeping the car very far to the inside on every corner. Hard braking into turn 10. It's an awkward braking zone. The Red Bull navigates it well. A little bit of oversteer coming up towards 11. Downhill, swooping left. And he's going to get some slipstream from his teammate, it seems. So a good tow down the main straight now. He's going to get that tow from Luke. The CPI driver, he's looking good, especially with this tow. How's it going to go now? He pulls to the left a little bit. And it's second, a 107.471, so he can't get ahead of Riley McKay. But he does get ahead of his teammate, Luke.
Luke currently going for a flying lap himself in the Red Bull there. So it looks like McKinley's been getting a lot of slipstream from his teammate, but Luke, on the other hand, can't get a tow back, so the favour's not returned, so it's quite hard to orchestrate it at a track like this. As Guy Tyler has gone up into P8 in the Haas there. What have you seen?
Big snap of oversteer for Luke out of turn 4. Nearly put the car in the wall. And tell you what, somebody... it's not a car in the wall, but GT10 Vita has retired in the pits. As, Snipers goes up to 5th for WOR. So that is pretty good for the Alfa Romeo, as he lets Philip through.
As Luke continues to struggle in that middle sector, the car all over the place, and as you expect, a second down in that final sector. So it's going to be it for him. And Philip, on the other hand, 1/10 down in the first sector, so not had a great first sector has Philip. It's really easy to lose it through the center rest as well, easy to validate, make mistakes through there, because the first 3 corners of the track can be really difficult to hook up, and especially this middle sector too. So he's got a bit wide through here. Can he recover any lost time, as LDL PLX has gone into P6 for McLaren, ahead of Snipes as well, and Baki in P8, but can anybody dethrone Riley McKay from pole position then? So it looks like GT10 on the rise so far. And Philip, the same with his teammate, ILT Julian as well, did the same thing back at John Sauer a few minutes ago in qualifying. So both Mercedes are really struggling. Saying that though, ILT Julian has gone into P4 with a 7.6, so it looks like they're continuously losing the back end there, just rear locking the brakes as they head towards John Sauer. Both Mercedes have done it twice as well, so looks like the back of the car just really loose, whether they're having the wrong brake bias or something like that, or just the setup of the car, braking way too late, who knows. But looks like nobody is challenging Riley McKay for pole position, unless Snipes can do anything about it. No, he can't, because he wasn't actually on a flying lap either. So Riley McKay for GT10, trying not to get confused with the other one. No, it's TF10, sorry. Which one is it now? It's TF10 because GT10 Quartz, so try not to get confused. Is on pole position ahead of both CPI drivers. IRT behind CPI, GT10 in P6 there with LDL and WOR, followed by another GT10 driver, then LDL, LRN, LRVL, Damn, these are long. These are quite a few tongue twisters as well, aren't they?
Yeah, quite a few confusing names here, it must be said. So apologies in advance for any mistakes that we make throughout the race.
Indeed, so there it is then. The AlphaTauri of Riley McKay is on pole position then ahead of McKillany. Luke in P3 behind his teammate. Considering the toe McKillany had, wasn't able to dethrone Riley McKay from the top spot on the standings. Julian in P4 finally hooked up a lap together after being down in P18 majority of the qualifying session. Philip, the German, in P5 ahead of Quartz. PLX in P7 with Snipers in P8 there. Back in 9th, Oni fills out the top 10. Outside of it is Spec Lab, Gaitans, Andrew, Jeroen, Vita, Lorenzo, Young Tug, Mr. Hollywood, and both Aston Martins looked like they were really struggling watching their onboards. Into the middle sector they went, they just couldn't get the car hooked up. So sadly for them, both Aston Martins are in P17 and P18, and Lorenzo down there in P16 too. Not a great qualifying session for him. So qualifying commences, and we're waiting for the race to go. I can't wait to see how this race turns out, because it's going to be a big battle between ILT and CPI, and I think ILT actually needs to keep an eye on WOR, because they're homing in the championship with only 2 races left to go. Everything to play for. Brazil into Lagos. Next race is at Vegas, and going to be a thrilling last race in Vegas too, because it's an unknown track really. I've not really raced around Vegas at all, not even done one lap of it, so I have no idea what Vegas is going to be like, but we'll see the difficulties of that track and in real life too next week at the Vegas Grand Prix, and Verstappen hunting another win, and that'll be almost 20, wouldn't it, this season?
17 if he wins in Las Vegas, yeah. So that would be quite impressive.
It would indeed, and let's see then how the race unfolds. There's a dry qualifying and a dry race to go with it too. Last time out with the Dutch GP, and it was an incredible battle between JR Artem, representing CPI Esports at the time, with Philip. Those two were fighting for the lead, and Baki finished 3rd at the Dutch GP as well. So let's see if he can get the podium once again for TF10. And they scored their first podium of the season as well at the Dutch GP, and put their name on the standings. I'm not quite sure if they've been here throughout the whole season, because judging by their pace so far, I'd expect them to score more points. I'm not quite sure if GT10 have been around, or it's a tongue twister, this one.
Yeah, certainly we've seen some very good driving from them so far. Of course, GT10 putting it on, or TF10 putting it on pole.
No formation lap. Here are the lights then for the Brazilian Grand Prix, and we are underway with a drive-through penalty already for Guy Tans, but we are underway now, and let's see if the Red Bull gets a better start. Here's McKillany up the inside. There's a bit of contact with the second Red Bull. I think both ILT drivers have been caught in some melee, and they're dropping down the field there. That's an ILT Julian who's gone for a spin, so not a great start whatsoever for ILT as they drop backwards. This is crucial for the championship as they may drop down into P3 with WOR starting to home in. Talk about WOR. Up the inside or around the outside goes Snipes with an LP next to him on the hard compound tyres. You expect Snipes to win out this one, considering he's on the soft compound tyres, the softest compound tyres of them all. He's up into P4 now ahead of Quartz. Philip in P6 represented ILT, so both ILT drivers has had a miserable start, but it's a great start for the CPI boys. McKillany jumping Riley McKay into turn 1, and he's ahead of Luke in P3, Snipes in P4, so be the quickest driver out of a lot of the soft compound tyres. And here we are then, the opening first lap of the race. ILT currently at the back of one to the back of the field, and the other one's in P6, so not a great start whatsoever for both ILT boys.
Yeah, definitely not what the Mercedes were hoping for. One of them in 6th, one of them in last. That said, Philip is going for a move on GT10 Quartz, down the inside into turn 1, and he's through basically before the braking zone. So up to 5th for Philip, the IRT driver. He'll be hoping to make up a position on Snipers as well. He'll want to get ahead of that Alfa Romeo, that WRR driver. We'll see if he can do anything into turn 4. It is a bit too early after the overtake on the Alpine behind him. Speaking of, no, it was just the camera angle. Made it look like Quartz was going to get a move back on Philip, but he doesn't have that opportunity yet. That said, Philip will be wanting to try and overtake Snipes, but Snipes is the only driver on soft, so tire-wise, he should be the fastest driver on track. The 3 ahead of him on hard, so I'd expect to see maybe in the early laps of this race Snipes catching and potentially overtaking those 2 CPI drivers and the TF10 driver, but later on those hards will come into play a bit more. The other thing is that the hards won't overheat as easily, so they might have a little bit more ability to push for a longer time.
Exactly as well, and both Red Bull drivers can help each other as well. In fact, they got Riley McKay in front of them in P2, so not quite the help, not quite the well, they actually all together, but Luke can hold the guys behind the Snipes and Philip as well, keep the ILT boy and the WRL driver at bay for the time being. DRS has been enabled, by the way, so you expect to see the DRS train. How difficult will it be for Snipes in P4? He can't afford to linger in P4, sat behind the Hardfooters. He has to get past these 3 if he can, but the tyres might be overheating slightly in that middle sector too, with the softest tyre, the most malleable tyre, less surface area as well, so therefore it's very easy to overheat, and these corners, standing around on those soft compound tyres won't do many favours. He's been sat behind in the dirty air too, won't do his tyres any pain or dividends either, so he has to capitalise immediately, because if he doesn't, then he's going to have a hard time sitting in P4. Same with Philip in there, P5, medium compound tyres, looking to the also strategy from mediums to hards, and let's see how his tyres will hold out towards the end. Not the start he needed either. I think he made contact with Luke into turn 1. I think both Mercedes sandwiched the Red Bull, and it was a bit of drama going on there, Constantino effect, and unfortunately for Julian, dropping down the order, because that was the second contact that forced him into a spin, because he came back on track somewhere in about 7th or 8th. But I think another driver tagged him, and unfortunately spun down into P14. 3 drivers at Gaitan, Speclap and Lorenzo went to the pit lane. Gaitan served his drive-through penalty, hence why he's quite far ahead of Speclap and Lorenzo. And Rue is up into P8 ahead of the GT10 driver of Vita, and lovely move there for him to be up into P8. And PLX is currently outside this DRS train, so he needs to get himself back in there immediately. But it looks like he's going slowly through the corners. Is PLX, so does he have the confidence? Has he got any damage to stage that car? It looks like he was struggling to turn in there and carry the speed, and therefore he has a lot of drivers right behind him. Let's talk about Young Tug. Young Tug has gained a lot of positions. He started P17 if I'm correct. Yeah, P17, and he's made up 7 positions in 1 lap, so keeping out of trouble, and also gaining a lot of positions due to contact and people serving drive-through penalties, and these guys are bunched all right to the back of PLX then, so he doesn't have the pace early stage of this race. Looks like he's really slow through the corners, and now here comes Andrew, but Philip is about to make a move on Snipes, or is he? There's so many battles going to track, I need to keep an eye on all of them, especially the top of the guys here. Down the inside goes Philip into 1. Can he make the move? Not fully alongside. Young Tug is ahead of Vita, so that's 2 for 1, as he was in P10 momentarily, up into P8, but they're still fighting. But it's so hard to watch them, because this is crucial for the top of the guys here, and they stay in formation to the top 5. And what's happened behind? Baki is right behind PLX, and he doesn't make the move for the time being then. So Andrew is in P7, and Vita is in P8, PLX is in P9, and there's the battle then for the midfield.
Yeah, a lot of battling going on throughout the field. This top 5, top 6 even, pulling away from the rest of the field quite a bit. But this midfield is so chaotic, it's so difficult to split your attention between the two. Philip, of course, nearly making an overtake on Snipers into turn 1 on the previous lap, but then chaos everywhere, overtakes and losing positions and just everything going on all at once. So this top 6 is clearly going to be our front-running group. They've really pulled away and turned themselves into their own DRS train, I should say, as Riley McKay looking down the inside of I'm really struggling with that name, McIllerny, into turn 1, but nothing happening. There's a yellow flag further back. It's LDL Oni spinning round at Junsao, it looks like.
Yeah, Riley McKay there just by this time. He saved a lot of EOS's store as well. He has to make sure that Luke does not get to P2, otherwise it'll be difficult for him to overtake, as both Red Bulls can use each other for DRS there, like OP did in the Formula 1 last time at the Dutch Grand Prix, when the two of them used each other's DRS and able to pull away, but actually got separated in the pit lane, so that could be another crucial one to keep an eye on too. But Snipes in P4, not really capitalised on those soft compound tyres. He had a bit of a wobble on too, coming out of turn number 9 there, and he's right behind the Red Bull driver, but can't do anything about it so far, so he might be stuck there until he makes his pit stop, and that's a shame for him because he's looking to go forwards on those soft compound tyres, but still stuck in P4. I'm not able to do anything about it either. Same with Philip in P5, not really using the mediums, and that's the problem with the DRS train. You just can't make any moves while you're in it, especially when you're in P5 and P6 there, as Baki has overtaken Vita. He's moved himself up into P9 then, so that midfield battle still commences. Looks like PLX has still found some pace, so he's able to keep the DRS of Van Roo for the time being and keep those guys at bay. He was really struggling with Ferradora, but it looks like he's found some pace then, as once again the guys are perilously close between the top 5 there, fighting for first place with Quartz at the back of this train in the worst place to be. But looks like it's shaping up to be a great battle between WOR, in fact TF10, CPI, WOR and IoT Esports, with GT10 Quartz in P6 hanging on to the back of this train.
Yeah, so lots of different teams in play here. 5 different teams in the top 6. So, and all 3 different tires in play in the top 5 even. So lots of different strategies among different teams, and certainly CPI, it's advantage to the CPI at this stage in the race, it has to be said. As Sniper is actually almost, he's not quite, but almost falling out of the DRS of Luke, 7/10 back. I do wonder if those softs are starting to wear out a bit. He's also very, very low on ERS compared to those around him. Philip directly behind on 60% compared to Snipez's 14%, and Luke's almost 80%. So Snipez actually being overtaken by Philip down the inside into turn 4. Nothing Snipez can do to fight back. Quartz a little ways behind, so not able to take advantage of that chaos yet. We'll see if he can catch up and make a move himself, though. As I have to say, I think Snipez's tires are maybe falling off the cliff a little bit, those softs. They wear out quickly, especially in the dirty air of so many drivers. We'll see. Philip almost looked like he was having a look at Luke already. I don't think he was really intending to, but we'll see out of Junsao, can he get the run down the straight and threaten the CPI driver at all into turn 1?
We'll have a look then, as Philip is a bit too far back on this occasion to make any sort of impression on the top boys here, but Riley McKay in a Red Bull sandwich, their senior team currently fighting him in P2 there, and Riley McKay just buying his time. He crucially has to keep the second Red Bull behind, as Luke there also saving the ERS. Hollywood has overtaken Vita, so Vita looks like he's dropping back as well, as the Aston Martin driver has got past. Now under pressure from Jeroen as he comes through, and he loses another place in the process too, so Jeroen is back up into P12 there, representing LRN, as once again Ryan McKay homing in on McKillany there. McKillany's ERS management has also been sufficient during this race too, so that could be key later on in this race as well, as we head on to lap line out of 36. All these guys in one big DRS train, but Snipes looking to drop out of it very shortly, as you expect to see a pit stop from him because of those soft compound tyres continuously fading away for him. And was start of the soft compound tyres the best idea for him, because the start to fade away, as you can see, the mediums and hards are much better than his tyres. He's under pressure now from Quartz. He's still in this DRS range. In fact, yes, he is. He's still in the DRS range of Philip then, but he's going to be dropping back of it even more with those softs starting to degrade, especially in that middle sector too. So it might be a pit stop imminent very shortly with those softs dying. Baki is all over the back of PLX, and now side by side with the McLaren man headed into turn number 1, and great move there from the AlphaTauri driver represented as well, TF10. And talk about TF10, Riley McKay has finally made a move on McKillany and puts his car first in the DRS train then. So let's see how Red Bull can respond to this, because they're so close to the back of the AlphaTauri. Essentially Riley there just in a bit of disadvantage without his teammate too, and both Red Bulls right behind with great pace, and Jeroen has overtaken Mr. Hollywood for P11, so 2 places gained for the Ferrari driver. But now the lead has changed hands with Riley McKay back up into P1 after losing it at turn 1, and now he's made his move. The CPI boys are ever so close as well, so they'll be pouncing later on during this race.
Yeah, so the 2 Red Bulls just biding their time, the CPI drivers now. Riley McKay building up a half a second gap back to those 2. So I don't think we'll necessarily see an overtake yet. As I say that, actually, the Red Bull coming up down the inside of Riley McKay into the lead, and Luke's going to look at it too. He doesn't go for the move yet, but that is McIlhenny into the first place again. But Riley McKay, he's looking at a move back through. He's got DRS now on the inside, well before the braking zone. He's already through, and Luke isn't even thinking about a move on his teammate yet. He is there to back up his CPI teammate at the moment, is what it seems. Philip, though, he'll be looking at all of this and thinking, okay, well, I'm on mediums. I might just have some more grip than them still. I need to try and make some moves now. So I would imagine the IRT driver of Philip will be looking at some opportunities pretty soon. He's not far off of either of the two CPI drivers in front of him. So, as I've already forgotten who it was, Spec Lap getting a penalty back in 17th in his Ferrari.
Yeah, the first man to pick up a 3-second time penalty to around here at Interlagos, and here we are on the straight once again with both CPI boys in close contention, and let's see if any moves are being made down into turn 1, or will they hang back for the time being. Philip is close to the back of Luke as we head down into 1, but Philip is not close enough, trying to make his presence ever larger by switching to the inside line and trying to do a dummy move, but Luke won't fall for that one. Baki is ahead of Amru, so great drive from the AlphaTauri driver in P7 there, what he needed after a dismal qualifying. Here comes McIlhenny, and he stays behind for the time being as well, just buying his time. No rash moves, just taking his time. Knows he doesn't have to fight it too hard because this first stint just followed each other in that DRS train before we go on the medium compound tyres, or the softs, because the softs aren't too much of a bad tyre around here in Brazil. It can last longer than you think of the soft compound tyres, but ideally you want to use them towards the end when the track evolution, the fuel has burned down too and the track's rubbing in. But early stages is not that great with heavy fuel, and also the track being green too, and yeah, just not a great tyre overall. But yellow flags, and that's Jeroen. Talk about his progress, moving up positions, as unfortunately dropping down the field now and fell into P14. He needs a place to spin out because it's a slow speed corner. He wanted very patient getting on the throttle, but looks like the back end overturned the front and has gone for a spin. Not the first time I've seen a driver spin through there. GT Quartz is right behind Snipes, and I thought I'd be going for a move into turn 1, as Snipes is able to stick with this DRS train despite being on the soft compound tyres, and he actually had a massive slap of oversteer. Did Quartz cut out of turn 1, hugging the inside curve too much. Same with Philip as well. We saw Esteban Ocon, who had a massive slap of oversteer and blamed Alonso for his crash, as they both came together in qualifying. And once again Philip right behind, but will he make a move into Ferradura? This could be optimistic. No, he won't, so he thinks wisely about that one. You don't want to risk any move into Ferradura, such a tight, fast right-hander. We saw Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris make contact through the years last year, I think it was, into that particular part of the track, and the second year in a row Leclerc crashed again on the formation lap, but this time it wasn't his fault, and it wasn't his fault last time because he gave Lando Norris plenty of room, and unfortunately it wasn't able to take part in the Brazilian Grand Prix where he got away with it last time around. So unlucky Brazilian Grand Prix. And also retired in 2019 when Sebastian Vettel and Leclerc came out. I mean, Leclerc and Vettel made contact on the rest of Porsche Straight, so actually think about it now, Brazil hasn't been a kind track to Leclerc whatsoever.
No, despite his quite exceptional performance there in qualifying in 2018, a line from Martin Brundle being, "I can't wait to see that kid in a Ferrari next year." So he's had some good performances at Brazil, but hasn't really paid off that well. Of course, I always remember that year, Brazil, for Marcus Ericsson qualifying even better, possibly, and then completely being forgotten about. And then proceeding to have contact on lap 1, which completely ruined his race. But that's the perspective of an Ericsson fan. More importantly, though, Luke is right on the back of his teammate, who, of course, himself is right on the back of Riley McKay, though Luke is much closer to the back of the driver in front. So Luke, I don't know if he'll be really looking at a move on McIlhenny yet. He's been very happy to sit behind all race long so far. I would be surprised to see that change, but he does appear to have better pace at the moment. So if McIlhenny starts to drop too far back from the back of Riley McKay, might be a good idea to switch those two around. As LVL Oni getting himself a 3-second time penalty.
And Quartz is into P5 ahead of Snipes. His Alpha Romeo teammate has got himself ahead of back here once again, and those two fighting for P7 there, along with PLX and Young Tug is on the medium compound tyres. Both Aston Martins opted for the same strategy. Both Mercedes went different ways, one on the medium and the other one on the hard compound tyres, but unfortunately one of them is further down the field than expected to be in this race. Look at the top three, almost separated by 3/10 there. Unbelievable how close they got to each other, but had to bail out of it, of course. But I'm expecting, oh look at this, Philip almost looking for a move down the inside at 7, but not enough room there on the occasion. Only's retired in the pit lane, so there's no safety car being deployed, so that safety car could have helped Philip and Snipes, but yeah, when they saw the yellow flag, I bet they were heart and mouth moment, but they realised there was retirement in the pit lane then. So we continue racing as we were, with Riley McKay in P1 there, with both Red Bulls on the back of his tail. I was expecting both Red Bulls to jump him into turn number 1 or turn number 4, but they're both staying behind, biding their time until latter stages of the Grand Prix, crucially keeping ILT behind Philip. Philip not able to leapfrog into any positions on those medium compound tyres, and once again McKellar looking for a move on Riley McKay, but just using him as the DRS and just buying his time for the time being. And crucially also Luke trying to keep the other guy behind, the CPI of Philip, ILT of Philip behind, but Philip can't make a move. He must be so frustrated that you're on better tyres, but just can't make a move. But 16 laps on a set of soft compound tyres is sensational, because they expect the tyres to go that distance, especially with the early stage of the race with heavy fuel as well, and the track being green. But Snipes is making them work. He has dropped out of DRS, so that must indicate that surely and very soon he must come in the pit lane. I think the strategy for him is soft to medium, because the tyre life around here is not as bad as I thought it'd be. I remember in the olden games we could do soft to medium too. The softs would go about 18 laps in the olden games, maybe 20 as well, because the tyre life was that great around this circuit as well. But as you can see there, Luke is all over the back of his team at McKilleney with a bit of a snap of oversteer at the exit of Judd Sow. Will his teammate pressure him as the team actually drops back? You can see lift on the throttle there, not getting too close behind his Red Bull teammate and just keeping Philip at bay. So this is great teamwork and great tactics from both Red Bulls, placing the cars at the right time. Snipes is in the pit lane to get rid of that soft compound tyre, so he'll be having an undercut on these guys ahead. But later on in this race it might bite him back with these guys on fresher tyres and hunts him down as Snipes comes out of the pit lane on the medium compound tyres, right behind Julian as well. So that actually could do Philip a big favour here if Julian can hold up Snipes, but bearing in mind though there's a lot of distance between himself and Julian too, so I don't think that will happen between those two.
Yeah, and something I noticed is that McIlhenny lifting and coasting into turn 1 at the beginning of this lap, so clearly pretty comfortable just to sit behind Riley McKay. I wonder if he's thinking of just trying to make a move in the second stint, even just sort of biding his time, saving his tires and fuel at the moment. So yeah, these drivers really not too fussed to be taking the lead. I know certainly, as I say that, I should be eating my words, as McIlhenny actually going for the race lead into turn 1, into the braking zone, and he is cleanly through. We'll see if Riley McKay fights back down through turn 3 and up towards turn 4. It looks like McIlhenny's pulling away. Luke looks like he's too far behind to make a move. Riley McKay is coming back at the CPI driver a little bit, but he can't make the move yet. So that is CPI McIlhenny up into the lead again.
I think both Red Bulls have him covered though, because they've just played tactics and games with him so far in the race. They see a massive snap of oversteer, McIlhenny out of Ferradura as well. I noticed Riley McKay had the same thing coming out of turn number 10, that fast left-hander. I'm not going to pronounce the name because I can't do it, so I don't want to make embarrassment of myself there. But you can see Riley McKay into turn number 8 where Hamilton and Albon crashed many years ago now, as I remember yesterday, 2019. and Ryan McKay then just getting away with it as we head down into Junsao then. So let's see what happens on this straight, because lap 18, we're halfway there and a bit more to go in this race too, with Ryan McKay still putting the pressure on McKillany and defending from Luke there. It's really crucial that Ryan McKay stays ahead of one Red Bull, and here he comes there once again on the Red Bull McKillany. As you can see, Luke was gaining and gaining, so he had to make that move, otherwise Luke would jump him. So as he's in the lead now, McKillany will have the DRS back, and when he gets into turn before, pit stops are starting to happen now. So let's see if they're changing a lot of things in this race. Quartz, Philip, well, Phillips is still in P4. Quartz is in the pit lane as we head down into turn before. Snipes to set the fastest lap of this race. He'll get a huge undercut on these guys ahead, but once these guys make their pit stop, they'll be on much fresher tyres and be hunting him down as well later on in this race too. So Snipes has to use these medium compound tyres to his advantage right now to gain as much time as he can before these guys make their pit stops on fresher tyres. He's right behind ILT Union as well, as Quartz is rejoined behind Snipes on fresher medium compound tyres too. Only 2 laps of difference though, but 2 laps can make a big difference around this game as well, as we head down this left-hander as well, heading into Junsao. Lovely sequence of corners through here. Then after Junsao, fully flat to the floor before we make it down into turn 1, a big DRS zone as well. And let's see what happens then when any of these guys opt to go for a pit stop. Riley McKay is going to the pit lane, and Luke has stayed out there, but look at this, both Red Bulls have stayed out. Here comes Philip on these medium compound tyres, looking to try and make a move, but nothing doing there as Luke places car in the right position, stays in P2 for the time being then. So Riley McKay has opted to go for the undercut on his rivals, but Philip really get a decent exit out to turn number 3 now and try and get alongside the Red Bull, but the Red Bull has DRS as well, so nothing doing so far as Luke is using the DRS of his teammate too, so that's frustrating there for Philip, as both Red Bulls are P1 and P2, essentially a roadblock, as Jeroen has picked up a 5-second time penalty. Let's see where he's rejoined then. Riley McKay, he's rejoined right behind Snipes, but here comes ILT Julian on all the tyres, making a move on Snipes again. But Snipes with those fresh and mediums should be able to dispatch him very quickly, and he can't afford to fight. But look at Snipes, look at Riley McKay trying to go around the outside of Ferradora, and with the fresh and medium compound tyres makes that stick. But that's not great news for Snipes, because he was hoping to dispatch Julian very quickly, but he couldn't do it as Julian was fighting back.
Yeah, so very good battling here, and notably Snipes ahead of Riley McKay, which puts him in the net lead, I would think, as McKillany pitting now. It seems he's sped in the pits, so it's a 5-second time penalty. That will be hugely detrimental for the CPI driver. And I would say, yeah, Snipes is probably in the best position in the race now. That said, Riley McKay right behind has 2 laps fresher tires and has track position now into turn 1. Nonetheless, Snipes is in a very good position, and I think he should be very happy with how that undercut has worked out. McKillany, though, coming out of the pits, where will he be in relation to Snipes? He is going to be basically right side by side with him, I think. He is. Round the outside goes Snipes, and he's through, it seems. Yeah, those hard tires, cold tires, not doing McKillany any good. And now Quartz is going to look at a move, but can't do anything into turn 6 and 7.
Yeah, McKillany on the freshest tyres adds a lot of Snipes, has fallen up all the tyres as he pitted off the soft compound tyres, so McKillany should be in a good position. Same with Riley McKay as well. As in the comment section, one of the drivers in the comment section recognises you, Bunny, as he says, "Hello, bunnies."
Oh, I'll have to check who that is actually.
And McKillany is right to the back of Snipes. As you can see, used a lot of EOS as well, so he'll be vulnerable on this straight. But that's a late move there from the Alfa Romeo, as McKillany had to go switch to the right hand side. Riley McKay starts the fastest lap of the race. As you can see, the Alfa Romeo is swapped to the straight because he has no EOS and no DRS as well. And Quartz is up to P4. And also, Max says, what is Baki doing? I don't know what he's doing. He's currently down to P9, fighting the McLaren driver. So, what have you seen, Max, that's you don't like from Baki? Because I've had to keep an eye on these guys in front.
Yeah, and certainly this group from about 3rd back to 5th is very, very close together. This is going to be a big battle. I would imagine Philip is trying to extend just to try and take the softs to the end of the race, because I do recognize the guy in the comments. Hello, Jam. And I also see we have a French guy in the comments. Donc, bonjour à lui. Yeah, we good battling here throughout the field. I personally haven't seen what Baki's been doing. I haven't had a chance to watch him very much, as actually Philip is into the pits, so we'll have to watch what tires he goes on to. This lead group will definitely come out ahead of him, but yep, he does put on the softs, so we'll see how those softs do in comparison to the mediums. They won't have the advantage that softs did over hards at the start of the race, but it will definitely be an advantage. Softs can be very, very quick, because actually Anru and PLX and Baki are all ahead of Philip as well now, so Philip will have his work cut out for him if he wants to get back up into a podium position. The IRT driver, it's going to be a lot of hard work for him, but it won't be impossible. He seems to be one of the quicker drivers today, and on those softs, I would imagine he'll have quite an advantage over some of the other drivers around him.
We're about to find out if Philip could use those soft compound tyres to his advantage. Will he be stuck behind this DRS train, overextending his stint on those medium compound tyres, and now he finds himself behind medium runners, older medium runners, but will he try it? No, he has to bide his time for the time being. He's stuck behind Baki in the AlphaTauri. Can the AlphaTauri do his teammate Riley McKay a favour as well and keep Philip at bay? The longer Philip stays in this position, the worse it gets for him. He has to capitalise on these newly fresh set of softs. I'm not quite sure if they're new or not, because you get 3 sets of softs in qualifying or 4, depending what option you choose, but he dispatches the AlphaTauri immediately, and that's an easy move there from Philip, unless the AlphaTauri is willing to fire back. He's using the ERS, he's got DRS himself on the back of the McLaren driver, but late braking from Philip was unable to him to stay ahead of the AlphaTauri. Next target is PLX in the McLaren. I mentioned he was struggling really a lot, he was struggling quite a lot into Ferradura, but actually his race pace hasn't been too bad, because I thought he had full wind damage, but he didn't, so I'm not quite sure what happened to him. But down the inside, that's a late move there from Philip, and let's see then as they make the corner side by side. Philip is ahead of the McLaren driver, fighting back into Ferradura, but nothing to do so far, and Philip is up into P7.
Yeah, Philip definitely making the moves quickly. He knows he has to. 2 positions made up since he pitted already, on a TF10 and an LBL driver respectively. IRT, now, you know, they should be concerned about WR, I believe is what you were saying earlier on, and this IRT driver, Philip, looks like he's about to dispatch of WR driver Anru. Let's see what he can do down towards turn 1. He's got the overtake on, he's got the DRS, he's going to go round the outside, almost off the track doing it, a 109.215, new fastest lap, brakes a little bit late into turn 1, still manages to make the corner alright, and CPI Luke is now his next target.
1.5, but how difficult this challenge will be for Philip now, progressing through the field and on guys who are on newly comparison tyres towards him. Baki is ahead of PLX as well for P8, as Riley McKay finds himself once again under pressure from McKillany, but this time it's not too bad, because both Red Bulls are not behind, and also McKillany has a 5-second time penalty, so if McKillany does overtake, Riley McKay can stay in his DRS. However, GT10 Quartz is in P3, and I did mention that TF10 and GT10 at the bottom of the standings, but with this pace so far and the results going, this could be a really good haul of points for both teams, as they desperately need it to boost themselves up to the field. And also WR Snipes is right behind too, trying to gain some points off IRT, because they're not too far behind IRT in the championship standings. So I'll have a look at the championship standings right now, as the top 3 are very close together. Let's see, McKillany will make a move on Riley McKay. Luke is ahead of Snipes, he moves himself up into P4. Luke also extending that hard stint on the freshest mediums out a lot too, so expect his pace to be good, better than the top 3s.
Yeah, and it's also worth reiterating the fact that McKillany has a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So TF10 and GT10, they're in a net 1-2 at the moment, not just the 1-3 that we see them in at the moment. Speaking of Quartz, looking like he's going to try and go for P2 on the track. I would imagine that GT10 Quartz will be wanting to catch up to Riley McKay and see what he can do to try and take the lead. Even with McKillany's penalty, GT10 Quartz will definitely want to get ahead. You know, you see a driver with a penalty, and all it really means is that you don't need to get past them with as much desperation. You still should be trying to overtake, and I'd imagine that GT10 Quartz will be attempting to, although through the end of that middle sector, McIlhenny did pull out a little bit of a gap to Quartz, and he's looking like he's a bit closer to Riley McKay than he is to Quartz now. So is he going to do anything into turn 1? No, lifting and coasting as he seems to do every lap into turn 1, and Philip ahead of Snipes now. So the IRT driver getting ahead of the WR driver, as Baki also getting ahead of Andrew. So WR losing a lot of positions on this lap alone. We'll see Philip doesn't look like he'll be under pressure into turn 4 from Snipes, but Baki is, as Andrew gets back into P7. So Andrew fighting back against Baki, the Alpha Tauri and the Alfa Romeo, the WR and the TF10, and going for it into turn 8 now. Baki considers but doesn't make a move. So we'll see throughout the rest of the lap, can they make any overtakes?
Staying out late on those hardcore pad tyres, looking to pay dividends for CPI Luke then, as he's putting massive pressure on the TT Trend driver, and can join his teammate in combat with Riley McKay. So once again, Riley McKay will find himself in a Red Bull fight once again, and that was hard enough in the first stint. You can see the flashing light at the back of the Alpine car indicating that he's deviated the straight. No battery for him, and here comes Luke, and here comes McIlhenny on Riley McKay. Up into P1 he goes, while Luke tries to fight with the TT Trend driver, has to give way to the CPI driver, and up into P3 he goes, and now putting pressure on P1 and P2, and Philip as well in P5. So the top 5 in close contention once again. This could be shaping up to be a great battle, but Snipes in a disadvantage on the soft compound tyres. Starts the softs, has not gone well whatsoever for Snipes. Unfortunately, he's dropped out of this train now. Might have to focus on Baki right behind, and Andrew too. So where he's dropping backwards is the WR driver, and the start of the softs was definitely a disadvantage. But I like to point out the comment section about TF10, because Jeff Barton says, bro, we just jumped in, we did one race, so let's chill, we will climb up. I wanted to mention about what I was wondering why you were down in the standings, and here comes Philip on Quartz then, using the soft compound tyres to his advantage to get past the Alpine driver, but the Alpine driver stays ahead of the time being. His teammate, however, has got himself a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. That's Vita, who had a spin early on in this race as well and had contact. But the Alpine driver using that ERS to try to stay ahead of Mercedes. But how long will this last for him, as the Mercedes has better tyres, more ERS, pulls to the inside line, makes the move into turn 1, well executed. Now on the soft compound tyres, let's see if we can fight the top 3 there. So yeah, Jeff Bowen, I wanted to mention this is our first time doing F2, because the F2 commentators are usually Lesty and Freefall, but one of them's ill. I'm not quite sure what's happened to the other one, whether he's still alive or not, but yeah, this is the first time jumping into the commentary box, because I'm the F1 commentator with James Head, but we had to switch it tonight because there was no commentators available for F2, so me and Bunnies are hopped in. This is Bunnies' first time in the league itself, and first time co-commentated, and this is my first time commentating F2, so I was wondering why you guys are at the bottom, because I haven't had time to look at the results or do research as I do all the time. But yeah, thanks for explaining why you down at the results. So it's the first time, the first race this season, I think last race they got the podium in P3 at the Dutch GP, and they're fighting once again with Van McKay in P2, doing an outstanding job, it must be said, despite all the pressure he's had from both Red Bulls tonight. And he can still be on for a win, but with Luke on fresher tyres, how hard will it be against him? But look at this, Van McKay almost made a move into turn 1. How would you play this out, Bunnies? You got one Red Bull pursuing behind you and attacking the other one. You can see him just had a mistake at turn number 3. Will it give Luke all the encouragement he needs to get past him into turn number 4? No, he doesn't. He's too far back. But what would you do? Would you use that DRS off the Red Bull to stay in between them and go for it later?
I think I would, honestly. Just keeping in mind that McIlhenny does have the time penalty from speeding in the pit lane, I think I'd be fully focused on defense, because I know I'll take the win as long as I can stay within 5 seconds of the driver in front. Now, mind you, if McIlhenny were to start pulling away, I'd definitely start focusing on trying to catch back up, because that DRS can be very useful, especially at a place like Brazil, where, you know, you look at the straight after Junsao and it's just so long. The drivers spend a good, 10-20 seconds there. I don't know the exact amount of time, but a solid amount of time just flying down that straight. So the DRS is very useful, and mind you, I would definitely take an overtake if I got an opportunity like that. I get the sense that was a very intentional opportunity from McIlhenny. but we'll see. Yeah, Riley McKay, a little bit of oversteer through turn 1. Looks like those tires might be overheating the way they just sort of slid mid-corner. We'll see, can Luke make an overtake down the inside for the lead towards turn 4 into the braking zone? He brakes later. Can it be a switchback for Riley McKay? It can't. That is Luke through into the lead on those mediums. Hitting late has really paid dividends for him, and Riley McKay can't challenge him into turn 6. So it looks like Luke is comfortably through into the lead. McIlhenny will now look to see if he can help his teammate, I would imagine.
Jeff Barron looking there with interest, seeing his driver in P2 to go for a second podium in the row after the Dutch GP. Baki got a podium. He's currently down in P7 after no practice, so Baki's done a great job, all things considered, but he's got 2 drivers right to the back of him. Young Tug, we haven't mentioned at all really in this race, is in P10. ILT Julius is in P12. I would love to see what he would have done in this battle with both Mercedes and both ILT boys splitting their strategy, but Riley McKay is holding on for dear life. He's making sure that only one Red Bull gets past, because if both gets past, then that's probably game over, because they can use each other for DRS and overtake each other too. So Riley McKay has to make sure he stays in between both Red Bulls and use DRS to the back of Luke to try and keep McIlhenny right behind. McIlhenny has got nothing to lose essentially, so I think it's all prioritised on Luke there to try and get the win for CPI, but this is shaped up to be a great battle. McIlhenny undoubtedly will lose the podium due to that 5-second time penalty, so he's just doing his teammate a massive favour, and he's done that by giving him P1, and he's holding on for dear life as well, because he's got Philip on those soft compound tyres right behind him with 4 laps left to go. This is shaping up to be a really great race here, but Riley McKay has got to focus on the Red Bull behind. You don't want to be first in the last few laps of this race either, so tactics will come into play as well. Who will be first in this DRS train in the latter stage of this race? We'll start to find out, but this entire race has flown by. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. My first appearance in Formula 2 after commentating Formula 1 with James Head being a co-commentator, but this time I'm the main commentator, and despite getting a few esports names wrong, trying to get there in the air, but here comes McIlhenny, and Riley McKay has to overtake Luke, but no, he actually keeps him ahead, because there's a bit of contact in turn 1, and here comes McIlhenny, but not enough room to go down the inside. Now Philip might take advantage as well, as he was bogged down into turn 2, couldn't really pick up the throttle as Riley McKay was in the way, but yellow flags has intervened, but that's out of turn 1, and they're all so close behind each other. That's really smart play there from Riley McKay, because yeah, he made sure that McIlhenny wasn't fully alongside to overtake, and he let Luke go as well. So this is huge pressure. Here comes Philip. Oh, big contact there.
As GT10 Quartz taking advantage of that, Philip falling back down to 5th. Quartz now on the podium, a net podium, with McIlhenny's penalty, and that'll be a good relief for Riley McKay for just a moment. He will be fully focused on Luke for, I would imagine, at least the lap before he has to think about McIlhenny again. Depends on McIlhenny's pace. But Riley McKay will be glad that that happened, although on our side, I'm just glad nobody's crashed out of the race. That was a very, very tense moment. Good driving from both drivers to keep their cars going forwards.
Indeed, mate. Riley McKay will be absolutely buzzing to see that, but fortunately for him, McIlhenny is still in P3, so we can still put him under pressure, and PLX has overtaken Snipes into P8, so in fact Snipes is coming back on him down the inside into turn 1, so Snipes has gone backwards. He was in this train, but starts with the soft compound tyres, pitting earlier than the rest of them, and older mediums too, hasn't paid him dividends late on this race, so unfortunately the strategy has not gone his way whatsoever, and he's actually behind his teammate too. He was quite a long way behind, and currently fighting for P7. His PLX has actually left the session too, so hopefully he gets back in there, because if not, Bakke will come in and overtake him for that P8, free P8 spot. And Young Tug started in P17 up into P10. He's been in P10 majority of this race, so he's had a quiet, lonely race, and gaining those positions off the start was pivotal for him, and quiet race probably what he needed to after a dismal qualifying and running his own race in P10. Vita 3.6 behind with a penalty. ILT Julian trying to make ground after spinning out at the opening Grand Prix. He was hoping for a safety car, but that didn't happen. Riley McKay stays behind for the time being, but just quarts outside the DRS range, and he might find himself with Philip all over the back of him. But I think it's now the pure battle between the top three, because McKillany is back in contention, putting Riley McKay under huge pressure. This is going to be very intense towards the latter stages of this Grand Prix. Riley McKay having to do a lot of focus, a lot of thinking too, to just see what he can do to try and keep one Red Bull behind and try and overtake the other without being swallowed by them. So yeah, he's having to think a lot on his toes and see what he could do. Last lap of the Grand Prix, Riley McKay surely will send it, but will there be any games heading down into Junsao with the DRS play?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it was certainly, well, the fact is Philip is into a net podium position, but the top two is certainly not decided yet. Riley McKay 4/10 off of Luke going into Junsao. How will this go? Nobody's doing anything too crazy through there, so it's the last really, really good chance for Riley McKay now. He'll have another opportunity into turn 4, but after that, it's just about over for his opportunities. He's going to go round the outside towards turn 1. It's for the lead. He's through before the braking zone. Turn in hard, try to make the apex, open up turn 2 if he can. Luke will be looking to see if he can get the run now. Riley McKay has more ERS, but he doesn't have the DRS. Towards turn 4, Luke is back through before the braking zone. Hard braking, and he's through into turn 4. Riley McKay surely won't have a way to fight this back.
Unless it could stick with him in this middle sector and try and get him and drag race him all the way out of Junsao to the finish line. That's Riley McKay's only chance then. He went for it in turn 1, and he didn't have the best of exits too, as he went wide like Perez did on Alonso this year. And the DRS detection point for Luke opened up past him. He overtook him for P1. But he needs decent exits now. He's got a lot of ERS at his disposal, whereas Luke hasn't. So it will come down into Junsao. Who will it be? Will it be Riley McKay or will it be CPI Luke? Let's see who gets a decent exit. They both get decent exits, and this will be a drag race. You can see Luke derating. This opens up an opportunity for Riley McKay. Can he out drag him towards the line? This is going to be mighty close as he pulls to the right hand side. Riley McKay wins the Brazilian Grand Prix ahead of Luke. What a fantastic drive from Riley McKay. You know what? I thought CPI had this, considering they are both cars inside the top 3, but Riley McKay drive the day for me, sure, because he kept it under pressure, he kept his composure, hasn't put a foot wrong whatsoever in this race, and TF10 will be absolutely buzzing with this result. Their driver sustaining the pressure of both CPI drivers. What an incredible result. Go to drive there for Riley, and played it really well with the DRS as well. Saved up the ERS he had to in that middle sector to use it all the way down the straight. And I must say, one of the best drives I've seen so far in the AlphaTauri suite. They'll be very happy. And not only a second podium of the season in 2 races, it's a first win in 2 races too. So they're cooking tonight, and let's see how they progress later on in the season too.
Yeah, against all odds, Riley McKay comes out on top. Those 2 CPI drivers put so much pressure on him all race long, but the TF10 driver refused to give up. He had the win right there. He was never going to let it go, and he certainly didn't in the end. He kept pushing, and wow, what a win.
And it turns out Formula 1 hasn't even finished yet, because there's a safety car being deployed and it looks like it's shaped up to be a great race. The safety car is in this lap, and there's only 3 laps to go after this as well. So it's OP versus F7R again. I think you guys in F2 might want to transfer it over to F1 now, because it's shaped up to be a sprint race all the way to the end. 4 different teams are OP, F7R, Shazoo, also ETA, along with RCR, G League. Oh, there's 7 different teams in the top 7. You might want to switch over to F1, ladies and gentlemen, because this is shaping up to be a great race. Who will come out on top? OP have been closing in on F7R recently, but the restart's going once again. Hazara's got a great restart on Shazoo Tom. Will he make a lunge into turn number 1? You guys need to go over there now, because it's shaped up to be a great race. DRS will be enabled in 2 laps for them. Oh, there's a big crash in turn 1 there. That's a Red Bull, that's an ETA driver making contact. It's not Hazara, it's Federspera who's gone for a spin, unfortunately, but the other ETA driver is still in P4. But that's going to be an incredible battle between those guys. But back to F2, congrats Riley McKay, you definitely deserve the win tonight. Top pole, and just put the car in the right places at the right time in between both Red Bull drivers. Do you know what? I think Red Bull could have been a bit more aggressive in terms of both of them overtaking Riley McKay instead of one of them, if that makes sense, because both of them could have used each other's DRS and keep Riley behind. But Riley was able to stay in between both of them in the race.
Yeah, a fantastic drive from Riley to take the win. Yeah, just really, really well done there from the AlphaTauri, the TF10 driver.
And also, buddies, your first appearance here, I want to say a massive thank you for commentating with me as well, because without you, it could have been difficult. It would have been difficult, but really appreciate you stepping in tonight. And also your first appearance here in EML, not knowing about anything really. You did an amazing job of commentary as always, mate, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you. Huge thanks for inviting me. It was a lot of fun. These guys are really, really talented. I couldn't even dream of being as fast as half of these guys, as any of these guys, really. So, yeah, these guys, really glad I got to watch them race. They are really exceptional drivers. Had a lot of fun, so thank you for having me.
No worries, mate, and a pleasure as always to have you alongside me no matter what league we go into. It's always a pleasure to have you here with me, and great insightful information as again, you've got some really great knowledge and also really great commentary as well from you tonight. And with only 3 laps left to go in Formula 1, which hasn't ended yet due to a safety cars, we had no virtuals or safety cars in Formula 2, but Formula 1 is still going with 3 laps left to go. Can Yossi overtake Benza? It's a really critical championship fight between Yossi, OP and F7R, because OP have gained a lot of points on F7R recently in the last few races, so F7R need to turn it around after a dismal result at the Dutch GP with one of their drivers crashing out. But the battle between the top 2 teams is continuing with Shizou Tom in P3 trying to get another podium there for Shizou, and Azara, who's in P4, missed out on the podium after he spun at turn number 1, trying to regain his first podium of the season 2, trying to gain some points with ETA after his teammates spun out and he's out of the race currently too. So all down to Azara to see if he can gain some points with ETA. But this battle is going to be shaped up to be a really great one. Next lap is the last lap. Will DRS be enabled? Can Yossi get Benza? And we'll see how the tactics play out with all these drivers in one big DRS shed of each other. I'm actually commentating Formula 1.
Yeah, you really are an F1 commentator through and through, huh?
Yeah, I usually commentate this, you know, because I've commentated the F1 season throughout the whole of it, but I had to step in for Formula 2, so yeah, I miss F1. I wish I was there, but I don't mind helping other divisions too, as they needed it that much. But yeah, it's been a pleasure tonight. Thank you for everybody who's watching in the live chat. I don't know if I'll be here next week. It's either F1, but Yossi's gone for a move on Benza, so Yossi has actually overtaken him into turn 1 with the DRS, but Benza will get the DRS back, and let's see, it's going to be a drag race down into turn 4. This could be an intense last lap between F7R and OP. No love lost. Remember what happened last time at the Dutch GP. Yossi goes defensive, making Benza go around the outside. Into turn 4 we go. Benza, can he go around the outside? Does he have enough space? I can't see from this angle. No, Yossi keeps it. This will be a drag race all the way to the line. I won't spoil it now. Head over there right now, you need to. And we'll see you all next Wednesday at 8 o'clock for the Vegas Grand Prix for the final round of the Season 2. So tune in then, and we'll see you all later.